All right, here's my next step on the Rapido GP38 project. The board's removed. I probably showed that before. So we want to see what we can salvage here. Since their stuff is proprietary, we're kind of stuck because I want Soundtrack's Tsunami 2 in this locomotive, and it's worth the extra effort to me. Go big or go home. So these lights you see on the bottom, just about every light that's used is going to be on this board, and it's engineered great. The front light is not as bright as it could be, and neither is the back one. It's under this and it's glued. I could rip it apart, but I know what I'm going to see. I'm just going to see another one like this, and it's on a little light pipe, just like the front one was. So let's see what we can salvage here. This is the front of the locomotive. Mine's the B&O. The red wire up here. So basically, how I found this out, just so you know, is it's a DC model. It's got the dummy plug on it. And I just put it on the track, cranked up my power pack, and took readings. So the red wire is 5 volts positive. Okay? That's where it's getting all of its power for all 3 lights. Okay? So it's 5 volts, but double check the output on your decoder. So it's going to typically be 12, right? So you're still going to have to put a resistor on each one of these. These are negative wires. Your black, yellow, and green. It looks bluish. It's green. So you're still going to have to put 3 resistors, or depending on how many lights you're going to use here, okay? The black wire is for the nose, and it lights up on mine, so I'm thinking it's going to light up on every low nose type locomotive. It lights up, but I haven't noticed it bleed through or anything. So the black wire for me, I'm going to probably, you can snip it or desolder it, take it off. Typically LEDs run on much lower voltage, like a voltage and a half, all the way up to 2.5. But these tiny ones, I wouldn't go over 1.5 volts. But there's a series of resistors here taking care of the work here. And that doesn't really matter. I'm just letting you know how they did it. So again, 5 volts, and you're still going to have to bleed off that extra 7 volts on each function wire. So the black is the nose light. The yellow is your class light, which is going to be, or I should say lights, these 2 right here. And they do a good job. They're not like headlights. They come on, you know it's lit. It looks good. Green is the ground for your walkway light, and that's piped down here, and it comes out the front, and you know it's not even a slot. They actually have a tiny little lens in there. Kind of impressed with that. Okay, so to be honest, that's all I'm going to salvage from this board. So let me just put that away. I will say that instead of having, I was okay with the number board lights on this, but the headlight, no. And there's no way to salvage that off the board. Let's see. Okay, here it is. Originally, this board sat right up here like this. And there's 2 holes in the front, and I milled this as close as I got into the hole, just slightly. But the number boards in the front look like this. I have no problem just putting LEDs in there for the number boards on an angle, and that's fine. But the middle one, you can see there's plastic there. I'm going to remove that and put an LED that faces forward. And then, this is kind of hard to do. There we go. And it's not all the way in. That's its factory location. So I'm just going to take a piece of styrene and glue it between the two. So it's the way it was from the factory. When you put the shell on, your, I get this up to the light. There, you see a little square, rectangle, whatever up in there? That's the light pipe for the headlight. And then left and right of that, you probably can't see much of it, is your number boards. It'll line up perfectly with that, and I think I'll get a much brighter LED when the center one's facing forward. And the reason for the styrene, I'm gonna put it on there and just sand it to the thickness of the board, because I mean that was there. Okay, I'm kind of jumping around a little bit just because I know what I'm gonna do up here. And this is your front truck pickup. Here's your back. So now, you know, we're kind of down to the basics, and this is all the stuff we can use. I will come back and address the ground lights, because they're in there, and they did use those connectors, but I will not. So I will come back and address that. They did come down and make contact with this board. When I'm done, all the LEDs will be soldered. I don't like just loose connectors like that. So the next thing I had to address was my biggest fear, but it didn't turn out to be bad at all. I took off 0.15 inches from the highest point. And that was mainly in this area and down here, because in the middle, it kind of had a, I don't know what you call it, just a emboss feature. And to be honest, I'm not sure. Oh, okay. I get it. There were 2 screws here, and that goes into the motor. And they did that so the heads of the screws didn't hit their board. And I don't want it hitting mine either. So that's the material I took off. And then what I did is I knocked this little real thin lip off here. And I really only had to take half of it off, but might as well just go ahead. So it's nice and flush. Mill that right off, nice and clean. I'll be able to put 3 of the Soundtrack's largest cube speakers. I don't know the whole number. The last number is 154, I believe. So I can get 3 of them in there, width-wise, like this, 3 of them. And it'll come up to about where my fingernail is. It is going to be a bit tight, because the decoder takes up most of the rest. I'm going to go with the Soundtrack's 2 PNP 8-function decoder. So I'll have a piece of tape down here, put that on it. And then I always go with the current keeper. I'm totally sold on it. It just, you can hit the dirtiest track, or if I have it running, I can take it off the track and put it off to the side, and it'll go for a bit. They're just awesome. So I always put that in, and I try to always put in 3 cubes or a 1-inch round speaker. That's the 2 that I always go for, and I feel I get the best sound out of that. So when I take the screws off and everything, this is the piece. There's still plenty of weight here. I did not, I don't feel that I took off too much, because like I said, if it was this high, all the way back, that'd be one thing, but it was not. And then on the last pass, I hit it with a 1/2 inch mill bit to get a nice smooth finish on it. Not that anybody's going to see it, but I'm picky like that. And there's kind of it's kind of satisfying working with a mill. It took about an hour, and it takes some patience. But I've done a lot of them, and I've really not had I've had issues, but nothing major. So anyway, that's where I'm at. When I'm not quite sure exactly how I'm going to do the back, but I've got a pretty good idea. Everything except the rear light, because you want to make sure that and they did the same thing by using this spongy tape and everything to make sure you didn't get light bleed. And I will have to face that just because I'm not reusing anything on this board. And I think that's the easiest, unless of course you're going to go with Loke sound, and I don't want to. So that's where we're at, and I think I've covered everything. And I've already ordered the 3 cubes, the decoder, and the current keeper. I've got some of the 402 LEDs. I mean, they are tiny. They take a little bit getting used to when you first start soldering them. But until then, the only other thing I'm going to say here real quick, what helped me in deciding how much material needed to be removed, and I will retract this or update it if this changes, but I popped this center out, and I've done it on other brands. I know I did it on Atlas, but I'm going to say, if you do this, do it at your own risk. This thing was not glued, but it has 2 little tabs on the ends, and it was a nightmare. I was getting so nervous I thought it was going to tear or crack the plastic or something. But once I got that off there, see, now I can set it in there with the weight, take my measurements, double check it across everything I have here for my size. Decoder's 0.2, current keeper's 0.23, and the speakers. And the whole reason for that was to make sure I had enough room, and I did add more on top too. Typically my wires go along the sides of the decoder and not so much over the top. So I already factored in, when I took the 0.15, some wiggle room, because that's the last thing I want to do is get this thing together and go to put the shell on and it won't go. But I feel pretty good with the way it's coming. And once I get the components in place, I'll assemble it before I wire anything and see where I'm at, just to double check that I've taken off enough.